Today we are going to be doing the baby bib design for 5x7 hoops. I'm just going to start off by talking about my notes on the instructions. Not all digitizers do things in the same manner. My way may not be how another digitizer does things, and vice versa. Please follow the instructions carefully for this project. Please read through the instructions before starting to get a better understanding of how things will be done. You will notice a lot of color changes. Most are just to make your machine stop when needed. You will not have to change colors this many times. I will explain in the instructions as we go along. If the design you purchased is an applique design, please use the additional instructions included in your downloads in conjunction with these instructions to help you know when the applique will stitch. Okay, so the one I'm doing today is the ducky, and it is an applique. So when we get to that portion of the bib, this is the additional instructions sheet, and we will go through that when we are on that part of the bib. So you're going to start with all the bibs. Two-part bibs have one design that is named A dash either bib, or it could be A dash top. I know I have changed it a couple times, but the two-part bibs always have an A and a B. So I have hooped tearaway stabilizer. If you prefer, you can use 2 layers of WSS, which is water-soluble stabilizer. I just prefer to use tearaway. And I apologize, my camera wants to keep trying to focus and it ends up going out of focus. I'm not sure how to fix that. So we'll just have to deal with it as we go along. Okay, so you're going to load up your top half of your bib, which again is the design file that starts with the A. And you are going to run your first color, and this is the fabric placement stitching. Take your hoop off your machine. You can see that's where everything is going to stitch. So now you're going to layer your fleece or your batting or your felt or whatever you plan on using. I am going to use a piece of batting, and it's covering the entire area. All the stitching lines are completely covered. Then you're going to layer your fabric over the top of that. Again, making sure all the stitching lines are covered. Put your hoop back on your machine. You can secure this if you feel better securing it. I usually use pins, and I pin it way out in the corners where no stitching is going to be happening. Sometimes I use tape. Most of the time I just kind of watch it and hold it down with my hand if I see a potential problem. So it's completely up to you how you want to do that. Okay, and this is what you should now have. We can get my camera to focus again. So you don't need to take your hoop off your machine at that point, but because next is going to be the quilting design. The majority, now in my instructions it says some designs have quilting on the top portion, some do not. I have been slowly changing all of my bib designs to have the quilting on the top. So at some point I'm going to update these instructions. So this this bib does have quilting. So go ahead and run your next color. Make sure you have changed your color to whatever color you want that to be. Okay, so at this point, your quilting is done. We are on step number 5 of the instructions, and this is completely optional. I generally don't do this. This is for adding ribbon ties. I use cam snaps on mine, so I always skip this step. But if you don't want to put snaps on there, this is an option. You would turn your hoop over to the back. Use some painter's tape is probably the easiest, and just lay your 2 ribbon pieces. I would say at least an inch inside of the design area. Use some painter's tape to hold this down. Make sure you pull it tight to the front of your hoop so you don't have any slack on the back, so it doesn't get caught up on your machine anywhere. And that would be number 6 is to, number 5 for adding that. So then I'm not doing that, I'm skipping that. So number 6 is lay the liner fabric covering all of the stitches and secure with tape or pins. Secure ribbon ends as not to get caught while sewing. Then run the next color to tack the backing on. I like to pin my backing on. So here's my backing. Here's my pins. Do not pin from the back. The balls on your pins can potentially cause some issues, make things get caught. But you got your fabric covering all of the stitches. I just kind of hold it in place. Flip it over, pin way up here in the corners. Where it's not going to get stitched at all, because we don't want your machine stitching over any pins. And I'm just making sure that the back is getting caught with the pin. Come down to this corner. And whoops, last corner. Okay, all 4 pins in the corners. Just make sure your pins have caught fabric. Put your hoop back on your machine. This is step number 6. And go ahead and start. This is going to tack the backing on. Okay, so we take your hoop off your machine. Remove your pins if you use pins or tape. This is step number 7. Trim the fabric and cutaway stabilizer or fleece if you used it. So it'd be fleece and batting. I need to update my instructions. Trim your backing from both the back and the front. I like to start on the back because sometimes I forget to trim the back. I'm using these Fiskars curved scissors. They work amazingly well for this type of work. I like to pull my fabric pretty much straight up and down, and then just hold my scissors at a slight angle and just kind of snip. Don't need to take big chunks of fabric, just maybe half an inch at a time. close to those stitches as you can get. Okay, we still need to trim down this neck hole, and the easiest way is to just kind of make a slit down and then start trimming. Okay, there's the back. See, it's pretty close there. I might trim this just slightly. Over to the front side. Trim your batting or your fleece or your felt and your fabric. If you need to do it one layer at a time, that's fine. Just cut your fabric all the way around. Go back and do the batting. Forgot to mention on the back, if you had ribbons there, do not cut your ribbons off. Again, we're at the neck hole. So just get a slit started here. And then start trimming around the edge here. Take your time. You don't need to rush doing this part. Find it easiest to have it on a table rather than trying to do it in your lap. Okay, so there's that portion cut out. Step number 8. Change your bobbin thread to match the satin edge, the satin stitching color, and run the last color. This is the finishing satin edge. I'm not going to change my bobbin. I don't have bobbins to wind. I use pre-wounds. So mine's just going to be white on the bottom, and my top is going to be blue. So go ahead and run your last color. Okay, got that boring part done. So now you can take your hoop off the machine. See pretty satin stitches. Go ahead and remove this from your stabilizer. And there you have the top portion of your bib. And I don't worry about the pokies or the hair. I do the whole thing all at once later on. Okay, so now we're up to our second half, the bib bottom, which your design file is going to start with a B. If you look at your color chart, you'll know which design you have, B, and the ducky, it happens to be B2317. Yours may actually have a different name, an actual name and not a number there. I've been trying to get into numbers. So go ahead and hoop your stabilizer whether you're using Tearaway or WSS. Then we are on step number 9. This is the fabric placement stitching. Go ahead and stitch this one out. I'm using black so that you can see. And I have to change my design. Okay. So run your first color of this design. And my black is shredding. So now take your hoop off your machine, and I'm again going to revise the instructions. The instructions that have the PDF instructions that have been sent out. I have you adding the top later on in the design, or I'm sorry, I have you laying the top portion on the bottom of the design rather than on the top. The new way, I'm going to have you secure it from the top. So at this point, my thread broke, and let's see if we can get it to focus again. Sorry guys, I think it's focused now. This line of stitching, my thread broke, but I'm not going to go back and restitch it. So you're going to take your previously made top, you're going to align this edge, align it with the straight stitching line, and also make sure, and I'll hold this up a minute, you want to make sure that you're aligned here horizontally also. So vertically and horizontally, make sure everything matches up nicely. I'm going to use a pin way over here where it's not going to stitch at all. You can use tape if you feel better. You may even be able to use 505 spray, but it may not hold it as tight. So take your time, just make sure you're straight and everything is pinned down nice and tight. Again, if you're coming in late on this, I'm doing this different than the current instructions. I'm going to be revising those. This just makes it easier. Some embroidery machines, your embroidery arm is on the left side. Some embroidery machines, it's on the right side. And if you're trying to put this on the bottom, sometimes your arm's in the way. So this is going to be a lot easier for people just to do it from the top. So I now have that pinned on. It's not moving. We're aligned up here. We're aligned down here. Now we are going to secure a layer of batting or fleece or felt, whatever you are using. And then on top of that is your layer of fabric for the bottom portion of the bib. All of my stitching lines are covered. All of this stitching is covered. Everything up on that end is covered. If you want to tape or pin it, you can do that. I'm not going to secure it with tape or pins. I'm just going to watch it and let it run. So then you're going to run your next color, and we are on step number 10. Layer the fleece or batting, and then the top fabric, covering all of the stitching, and secure with tape or pins. Then run the next color. This is the fabric tack down stitching. It's going to tack down the bottom part. Okay, number 11. Number 11 is the quilting. Again, some of my older designs do not have quilting, but that will be changed. All of my bib designs will have quilting on the back. So go ahead and change your thread color to whatever you want your quilting to be and run the next color. Okay, so there's the quilting. Next is going to be the design. There are two different designs. There are filled designs and there are the applique designs. If the design you purchased is not applique, then you can skip steps A through E, and you will then be on step number 13. This one that I'm running is actually an applique design. It should be a fairly quick one. So if the design you purchased has applique, follow the next few general applique steps A through E. And this is when the other instructions come in play. I can remember where I laid them. Oh my goodness, that's funny. I literally just had those. There we go. That's when these instructions come in play. We are on the B portion. This will help show you where the applique parts are using conjunction with the pictorial instructions. So this is color number 1, not step number 1. So color number 1, pink. Follow step 9. This is the fabric placement. Okay, so back over here in these instructions, step number 9. This is the fabric placement stitching. So our ducky is going to be first. I'm sorry, I'm so confused. I forgot to have you start this at the very beginning of the B. We are actually on, we already did the pink, the blue, the green. The green was the quilting. We are on number 4. So we are going to follow step A through step A under step number 12, beak fill stitching. Okay, so step A, applique. Some applique designs have some fill accent stitching before applique is done, as in the photo at the right. Run the fill designs if applicable, which it is applicable on this particular design because we need to run the duck beak. So run fill designs if applicable or skip to the next step to start applique. We are going to run it because it's his beak. Again, when I get some time, I will redo this video. I'm also going to redo the instructions. Hopefully it'll go a little smoother the second time around. And my thread broke right at the end. Okay, so looking at the color chart, the actual color chart, we just ran the tangerine, which was right here. The next two colors are pink, blue. Every time I have applique designs, I start with pink and blue. Anytime you see those two colors together, it's more than likely 99.9% of the time it's going to be an applique. So we just finished our tangerine. We'll look at this back here. Follow step A, we did that. So color number 5 is pink. Follow step B. This is the duck placement stitching. So B, you do not need to change your thread colors for step 3. For the 3 steps of applique, I put on the color of the edge of the applique will be, the first color will be the fabric placement stitching. Okay, so my duck is going to be yellow. So I have my yellow ready. It's going to make the placement stitching. So go ahead and start that color. Just going to make an outline of the duck. Okay. You may not be able to see it on camera. It's kind of light. You're going to take your fabric, place it over all of the stitching. So this is number C, or letter C. Number 6, follow steps C and D, duck fabric tack down and trimming. So C, secure the fabric covering the entire placement stitching area, then run the next color to tack down the fabric. So leaving your yellow on, or whatever color your ducky is going to be. Just going to tack the fabric down. I actually bought my parts to fix my machine today, so that's one thing added to my list, or taken off my list to do, to order. Now I just need time to fix it when they come in. Okay, so we just did C, so now we're going to do number D, letter D, trim the fabric getting as close to the stitches as possible. So there's the fabric is tacked down. Trim, getting as close to those stitches as you can. Take your time in these really curvy parts to make sure you get really close. I'm just doing like 1/4 inch snips here. And then when you have to get down there in his neck, it gets kind of tight. So just take little tiny snips. Okay, so there is the duck cut out. You can see how close those stitches, that cutting is. So just, okay, that was number D. We are on color 7, follow step E, duck satin stitching. So in our instructions, number E, some designs will stitch the satin next, and some designs will stitch more detailed stitching. Refer to the detailed instructions. In this example, it runs the satin edge next, which is actually what the duck will do. And it, again, says that right here. Follow step E, duck satin stitching. Doesn't say anything about any other stitching. This is going to finish up number 7, the duck satin stitching. Number 8, black, follow step A. This is the eye fill stitching. In the instructions after the satin stitching of the applique, I did put in here that depending on the design you purchase, some accent fill designs may be next, which in our case there is. It's going to be the duck eye. Or there could be more applique. Refer to your additional instructions included in the download files. So that was just another note. So A, I fill stitching. This is actually going to also do his wing, which it's the same color. There's no stops in between. This is the color that's going to stitch his eye, and I'm going to do mine in black. Okay, now on the paper instructions, this is where I was going to have you attach the top portion on the back side. We are not doing that today. Again, I am going to revise these paper instructions to reflect how we did it today with putting the top portion on at the beginning. So we are going to skip number 13 and move on to number 14, which is secure line fabric over the entire back side, then run the next color. This is the back fabric tack down stitching. Over here on our other instructions, this is color 9. It says to put on blue, which actually don't need blue, whatever color your satin edge is going to be, put that color on now. Follow steps 13, 14, and 15. Actually, we're skipping number 13. So we're doing step 14 and 15. Backing, tack down stitching, and trimming. So remove your hoop. Turn it to the back side. Have some knots going on there. Lay your backing fabric until all your stitches are covered. I like to pin mine. Pin it from the front. Pinch it, hold it, pin it way out of the way of where any stitches are, so we don't run over any pins. And I've got to grab a couple more pins because my other two I had with me are up here in the top portion. Okay, so I'm just going to grab the back. Make sure it's nice and smooth in this corner. Feeling along the back in this corner. Turn it over, make sure that my pins are actually catching the fabric, and it is. Back to the front, make sure you have the right color on. Mine is going to be blue. you aren't going to see this stitching, but it's easier to remember to do it now for your very last color. So this is the backing tack down stitching. Okay, take your hoop off your machine. You can remove your pins that are holding the back on. Flip to the back. Trim all the way around. You want to take your time when you get up to the curved portions at the top. You want to get your fabric cut as close to those stitches as you can get. Take small snips. Really close. Okay. Flip it to the front side. And trim your fabric and your batting. Very, very slowly here at these curves. Oops, not in there. So that you don't happen to catch your top portion in your scissors or something. Just take your time. Very slow. Very small snips. Okay. Very close. Put your hoop back on your machine. Make sure you've got the color you want your satin edging to be on. Run the last color. Okay, so there's the satin edge. Remove my pins here that were holding on the top. Remove it from the stabilizer. Trim the hairs or the pokies. Mine are more like hairs. The stabilizer I use isn't pokey at all. It's really soft. It's almost like hair sticking out there. I use my big scissors, and shears to trim those hairs off. Except for when I get into the inside curve, then I go with some smaller scissors down here. Very carefully so I don't snip any satin stitches. Just continue around the whole bib and be done. And that's how you do the bibs in the two hooping bibs. Two hoop bibs. I don't think hooping is a word. Anyway, there you go. If you have any questions, go ahead and post them. I'll answer them as best as I can. Thank you for watching.